We're going to be doing a little Slorkaeology on Go Wong's 2014 piece, Neon. I kind of was just going through all the pieces, and this one really struck out to me because I want to do a similar kind of thing. So yeah, let's get into it. It starts off this little poem. It is raining, shadows rush past you in an empty street, voices echo near and far beneath the neon glow. Very poetic, very nice. Um, and so yeah, the first thing that struck out to me with this piece was, I mean, pretty clearly the lighting. I think it's just super unique, and here you'll see for yourself in this excerpt. The kind of glowing laptops, which is super unique, and I haven't really seen in any other Slork pieces, which I really, really appreciate. So if we go to the beginning, um, using OSC signals, it syncs up all the computers, and every time a noise is played, that computer shines a strobe light. So as you can see here, it's kind of shooting all around the screen, which is so cool. Love that. And so this is kind of the first section, this kind of clicking noise. And then right here is the second section, where we kind of hear the first different sound, which is pretty big contrast. You can see the lights contrast a lot with that first section, and the noise itself. We go from like a quick, short, popping, clicking sound to these long vocal choirs, which I love. And I really love how well the sound design is like mixing with the color design. And then lastly, after the choral part, this kind of screechingness comes in, this weird metallic whistle, and the strobes go absolutely crazy. And yeah, so those are kind of like what I saw as the highlights from this piece, the parts that I really, really enjoyed, and sort of my takeaways from the piece that I want to integrate into mine. One, as I said before, the way the light highlights the moving noise. I feel like a lot of times we as performers know exactly what's going on, but don't display that as well to the audience. Like the audience doesn't realize, like I don't really think they would be able to hear the sound traveling across the speakers, but they totally be able to see it. And I love how mixing the two really gets the point across that these kind of sounds are jumping from station to station. As I said before, again, the sound design works really, really well. The last things is that I love how kind of every sound feels like it's coming in the same room. Like looking through a bunch of different Slork pieces, one of the things that kind of stood out to me about the ones I didn't like was you had these sounds that didn't really mix well together, and it took you out of the performance a little. And you think, okay, like you think meta, like, oh, this is a sound being played through a computer, rather than kind of just letting yourself be immersed when different sounds feel like they're coming from different rooms or places. Uh, the other thing that this, like, the reason this piece stood out to me compared to the others was how it had a high variability in all sorts of different things: the melody, the harmony, the tempo. Like everything was changing, but there was still kind of a motif and a structure that held the song together. And in this piece, I would say it's like the instrumentation and the color. It keeps it all as one piece rather than just amalgamation of noises, which led to like kind of my final conclusion that I really want to bring into my piece from this piece was that, you know, chaos is good and cool, but everything is relative. So if you don't relay the feeling, or if you want to relay the feeling of chaos, you have to have order with that. And with this piece, I think it does that through kind of that middle section right here of, you know, we start off with this chaotic bouncing all around, but then this kind of like nice vocal relief almost from that chaos. And it's important to have that, because otherwise there's no variability at all, and you don't get that feeling of chaos across. So yeah, going a little more into the actual code now. The kind of main parts here. So there's just these notes, which depict each different part of the piece. I wouldn't say there's anything to say here. It's sort of just what happens in the piece. But I like how he includes instructions to the performers, because I do think that adds a lot, like their face movement, and I think that contributes so much to feeling like you're really inside the piece. Um, the other code was this piece of processing code, um, which is how he sends the strobe lights. And I was looking into these, and it receives an OSC message, um, and then calls the strobe function, which kind of just shines a bright light on your computer screen. And I think this is super super cool, and it's definitely something I don't want to copy the same idea, but the idea of like a flashing light, maybe not from your computer, but maybe something else. I love that so much, and it's relatively simple code, which is very cool. And then lastly is the code of the voices itself. It's a lot of code, but it's really cool. I have a couple things that I wanted to. I guess the main thing I wanted to look at was down here, uh, in the Lisa player, because I had never really understood how Lisa worked. Uh, but yeah, like now I feel like I have a good understanding of it. So what it is it calls the Lisa object and has a constant like low pass filter sweeping, um, as seen here, and it's just moving with the sine wave up and down the spectrum. And then I'm definitely going to use this because I think it's so cool. But it calls the granular synthesis down here. It's designed, it calculates the rate and the position of the playback based on the given pitch and intensity, and that triggers the grain. But there's another version that just triggers kind of a more basic ADSR. And so having both of those, I think, is very cool. Both the granular synthesis and non-granular synthesis. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just really appreciated the integration with the lighting, especially throughout this code. Um, and yeah, that was kind of my main takeaway. I loved it. Good, good piece. Good work, guy.